Lieutenant Marcus Hale flew his shuttle toward Horizon Station with steady hands and a clear mind. The small research outpost hovered above a silent moon, its lights long since dimmed. He scanned the station's outer hull for damage, finding only scorch marks from old meteor strikes. In his years of service, Marcus had learned to expect the unexpected. Yet as he prepared to dock, a cold sense of unease crept into his chest, whispering that this mission would be different. The airlock door hissed open, and Marcus stepped into the station's dark corridor. His boots echoed on the metal floor as he swept his flashlight beam across empty doorways. Strange panels of broken glass, toppled crates, and scattered datapads told him that the station had once bustled with life. Now it seemed frozen in time. He checked his comms. No signal. His heart rate ticked upward, but he forced himself to breathe slowly and stay calm. He tapped his wrist console and saw odd energy readings from deeper within the outpost. The sensors showed a large metallic mass hidden in the station's shadow, but the logs made no mention of such an object. Marcus replayed the old transmissions, talk of standard research vessels, not warships. "Something is off," he muttered. He readied his sidearm and moved down the corridor, walls humming faintly with power he could not yet identify. As he turned a corner, the hum grew louder. The lights flickered, revealing a curved bulkhead ahead. Marcus's pulse quickened. He pressed a hand against the cool wall and felt a subtle vibration beneath the surface. He reached out to scan the plating when a sudden sway knocked him off. Balance. The entire station trembled and the lights surged to full brightness. In that moment, Marcus glimpsed through an observation window the hull of a huge alien ship, its surface rippling with energy. Before he could react, the station's alarm pierced the air. Red strobes flashed. Marcus drew his blaster, stepping back against the wall. The sound of boots on metal echoed around him. From the far end of the corridor, armored figures appeared. They wore sleek suits of dark alloy, helmets reflecting the strobing lights like black mirrors. Marcus aimed carefully, but the shapes advanced without fear. He fired a warning shot that rang deafeningly off the walls. The projectile struck the floor, and the echo rattled his teeth. The alien soldiers paused for a heartbeat. In that instant, Marcus saw elongated claws at their gauntlets, and eyes behind the helmets burned with cold light. He lowered his weapon slightly, hoping to show he would not start a fight, but the lead soldier raised a hand palm out, and a silent pulse shot from his gauntlet. Marcus felt a sharp pain pierce his chest. His vision flashed white. He dropped to one knee as the pulse wrapped around him like a net of crackling light. His muscles locked and his sidearm clattered to the floor. He struggled to break free, but the energy vines tightened. He gasped for air, his lungs burning. The last thing he saw before he lost consciousness was the smooth, dark floor up close. When he awoke, he lay on a hard table in a vast chamber. The walls curved upward in a dome of glowing alien scripts. He tried to sit up but found his wrists and ankles bound by straps that seemed to pulse with a soft glow. His uniform was torn, and he tasted copper in his mouth. Panic rose, but he forced himself to breathe deeply. He had faced danger before. He could face this too. Two stoic figures entered, their boots silent on the polished floor. They carried devices that hummed with an unsettling energy. Marcus pressed his back against the table, eyes blazing with defiance. He met their gaze and held it, refusing to look away. Though fear quivered in his chest, he would not show it. They probed him with scanners, but Marcus clamped down on every instinct to plead or explain. The lead interrogator spoke in a clipped tone. Marcus did not understand the words, but the soldier behind him translated roughly through a device. They wanted the station's data codes. They asked for Earth's military plans. In broken phrases, Marcus refused. He spoke of peace and honor, trying to buy time. The interrogator growled and raised a small orb that glowed brighter. Marcus closed his eyes, bracing for pain. But instead of agony, a soft warmth spread through him. The straps loosened. Confused, Marcus opened his eyes to find the orb dimming. The interrogator frowned and signaled to the guard. His wrists snapped free with a click. Marcus flexed his fingers, disbelief twisting in his chest. The guard stepped back, unsure. Marcus rose, testing his weight. The interrogator barked an order and the guard lunged. Marcus sidestepped and grabbed the guard's wrist, twisting it, until the weapon dropped. He shoved the guard aside and the armored suit clanged against metal. The interrogator barked again, but Marcus had already sprinted from the chamber. He raced down the corridor, heart pounding. The hum of engines and the flicker of lights guided him. Each step rang with purpose. He would reach his shuttle. He would escape. And he would bring word of this threat to Earth. Even as alarms wailed and the ship shook around him, Marcus felt a surge of strength. No chain, no alien power could break his will. Marcus regained consciousness on a narrow table in the deepest chamber of the alien flagship. The air tasted of ozone, and the low hum of machinery resonated through the floor. Dark walls glowed with shifting patterns like slow rivers of light. Thin strips of light cut through the gloom overhead, casting long shadows. His arms were locked above his head and his legs held fast by metal braces. Strange symbols marked his skin where instruments had probed him. Two armored figures stood at a console nearby. Their smooth, dark suits reflected the glow of the screens. Their movements were precise and silent. The console hovered above the floor on a raised platform of polished metal, its panels blinking with alien symbols. One soldier tapped glowing keys and holographic displays rippled into new patterns of light. Marcus's head throbbed as panic rose. He steadied his breath, recalling his zero-gravity drills on Titan. He would not show fear. Marcus studied the guard's stance. Their armor seemed strong but heavy, each joint reinforcing lethal strength. He noted the hinges at their elbows and knees. If he could force one off balance, he might break free. He scanned the floor. The braces clamped only where the metal met his forearms and ankles. He leaned his weight, testing each seam for weakness. Even bound, his mind worked like a soldier's, searching for any edge. A sliding panel opened with a hiss revealing a figure in a robe of shimmering crystals. The robed being floated forward with an unhurried grace. The armored guard produced a small device topped with liquid white light. Marcus watched it hover in the guard's palm, heart pounding. He closed his eyes and summoned his sister's bright laughter and his father's proud smile, squeezing that memory close like a lifeline. The guard pressed the device against Marcus's temple. A ribbon of light seeped into his skin. Pain flared like a hot blade, and the world narrowed to a single, white-hot point. Marcus clenched his jaw and wrapped his will around the memory of home. White-hot pain lanced through his skull, but he refused to break. Suddenly, the device flickered and its hum warped. The guard jerked it back, eyes narrowing behind his visor. The crystal-robed figure lifted an arm and the guard let the instrument clatter to the floor. Marcus gasped, tasting copper on his tongue. The braces loosened slightly, yet still held him fast. He flexed his fingers, the first real movement he had made in minutes. The robed figure watched without a flicker of emotion. A low, echoing voice filled the room as two guards lifted Marcus into a small chair. His braces slid into armrest locks, pinning him in place. Above him, a circular screen descended, flickering with symbols drawn from his memories. His first solo flight on Luna, the cheers of his crew after a perfect drill, the blaze of energy, weapons on Callista IV. Heat rose on his cheeks at the exposure of such private thoughts. He squared his shoulders and stared at the glowing display. Questions boomed from the resonant voice. Where is Earth's home fleet? How many ships, what defenses guard your planet? Marcus said nothing. His lips pressed together in a firm line. He would not betray his world. From the shadows, guards set down a floating orb, white-hot and humming with raw power. It drifted, close, its heat baking the air around his head. In a flash of light, the orb plunged into Marcus's forehead. His body snapped rigid, and time seemed to slow as pain washed through him like a tide. In that agony, Marcus held on to one thought. His mother's voice whispering, "A human's will is the anchor of the soul." He reached beyond the chamber, across the void, to Earth's blue oceans and green forests, his father's cluttered workshop, his sister's hopeful eyes. The orb flickered. Walls shimmered. Guards staggered as sparks flew from their shields. The robed figure's hand arced upward in shock. With a sudden pop, the chair's lock sprang open. Marcus lurched forward as the orb shattered against the console in a cascade of sparks and steam. Alarms blared. Red lights painted the chamber in a harsh glow. Guards lunged, but Marcus dove aside, snatching an energy rifle from a fallen soldier. His training took over. He fired a controlled burst at a nearby control panel. Sparks and smoke billowed, and the lights died. In the faint glow of emergency strobes, Marcus heard vents hiss and distant doors crashing open. He ran toward the sound, each step fueled by pure adrenaline. He passed rows of sealed doors and dark alcoves. Emergency signs flickered, overhead guiding his path. The smell of burning circuits stung his nostrils, but he felt no pain, only purpose. He did not stop until he reached the maintenance hangar. There he spotted a small escape shuttle nestled on its cradle. With trembling hands, he opened the cockpit and initiated the launch sequence. As the hatch sealed, Marcus dared a final glance back at the wounded warship. Its hull burned with failing systems, its corridors silent. He drew a steadying breath. He was alive, and he would warn Earth of this threat. The iron gauntlet of Inquisition had tested his spirit and failed to break it. Deep in the alien flagship's underbelly, Lieutenant Marcus Hale moved with cautious purpose. The escape shuttle's engines had sputtered to life, but the vessel drifted listlessly in a maintenance bay surrounded by heavy blast doors. Marcus knew he could not pilot the shuttle alone. He needed allies, and he had heard rumors of prisoners held on this deck. He slipped through shadowed corridors where pipes hissed and sparks fell from loose wiring. The air tasted of burnt metal and coolant. He checked each doorway, whispering to himself to stay calm. His uniform bore scorch marks and rips, but his spirit felt renewed by his recent triumph over the Inquisitors. He had learned their tactics and broken their tools. Now he would free others who shared his fate. In a low-ceilinged cell block, Marcus found rows of transparent cubes glowing with faint blue light. Inside each cube stood a person far thinner and paler than a healthy human. Shocked scientists, wounded soldiers, and one or two engineers. Their eyes widened when they saw him. Some mouthed silent questions. Marcus pressed a button beside the first cube, and its lock clicked open. "Come on," he urged softly. "We're getting out of here." A middle-aged engineer with a graying beard hesitated. "Are you real?" she whispered. Marcus offered a steady smile. "I'm as real as a human can be. Follow me." She stepped out, legs trembling but determined. Others watched, hope flickering in their eyes. Marcus worked quickly, disabling each cube's power node with a makeshift tool he had fashioned from a broken data pad. Sparks flew, and blue light winked out one cell at a time. 7 prisoners stood free beside him, uncertain but alive. Their moment of relief ended when a distant klaxon echoed through the deck. The warship's command systems raged against the sabotage. Heavy footsteps approached. Marcus motioned the group to a narrow maintenance tunnel. "This way," he hissed, leading them into the cramped space where only one person at a time could move. They crawled past exposed conduits humming with energy. Each spark cast their shadows on the curved metal walls. The engineer, whose name was Kara, leaned close. "Do you have a plan?" she asked. Marcus shook his head. "Just one goal: safety. After that, we find a way to help Earth defeat these aliens." A scientist named Rohan pressed his hand to a corroded grate. "I remember the schematics. If we can reach the hangar, we might find another shuttle." Marcus nodded. "Then let's go." They crawled until the tunnel opened into a larger passage. Colored lights stuttered overhead, guiding them toward the main hangar level. The air tasted fresher here, tinged with recycled oxygen and distant exhaust. At the far end, a pair of hatch doors sealed by magnetic locks barred their path. Kara knelt beside the control panel. "I can hack it," she said, voice trembling but confident. Her fingers flew over a small console she had built from spare circuit boards. Lines of alien code scrolled past as she decrypted the lock sequence. Sweat beaded on her brow. Marcus scanned the corridor behind them. Faint red strobes flashed through narrow vents. Security teams were sweeping the decks. Every second counted. He clenched his jaw and whispered, "We need that hatch open now." Kara's fingers hesitated, then resumed. With a final beep, the panel's lights blinked green. The magnetic field collapsed with a hiss, and the doors slid open. Marcus pulled each prisoner through, one by one, until only he and Kara remained. As she passed, she caught his sleeve. "Thank you," she mouthed. He nodded and took the lead. They raced down a sloping corridor toward the hangar. Below them, the deep roar of the station's engines vibrated through the metal floor. Sparks arced from walls where previous sabotage had damaged cables. Marcus raised his hand to signal a halt. The corridor split. One path led to the main elevator, the other to a ladder descending into an auxiliary tunnel. "Elevator might be sealed," Marcus said. "We'll try the tunnel." They climbed down the ladder into a narrow shaft lined with ventilation ducts. Kara wriggled next to him, carrying a small pack of medical supplies and food bars. The other prisoners followed, gripping the ladder rungs. At the bottom, they crouched in a dim crawl space. "Which way?" Kara asked quietly, shining a red light torch down two branching passages. Marcus pointed left. "Heads up. Section 3 should be just ahead." He led them forward, hands brushing against cool metal. Their boots made soft thuds on the grated floor. Ventilation fans hummed, pushing stale air past them. As they turned a corner, Marcus froze. The crawlspace opened into a larger chamber, where a massive engine sphere pulsed with pale blue light. It was the power core that ran the entire hangar's systems. A lone alien sentry stood guard, its weapon held at rest, but ready. Marcus pressed, a finger to his lips, and motioned for silence. He scanned the walls for cover. A maintenance catwalk arched above the engine. He pointed. "Up there," he whispered. Kara pulled a length of cable from her pack and tied it to a nearby support. "Climb," she urged the nearest prisoner, a young soldier named Jax. Then she handed the other end to Marcus. One by one, they hoisted themselves onto the catwalk, careful not to trip the sentry below. Jax was the last to climb, glancing back at Marcus. His eyes burned with gratitude. As they settled above, the sentry shifted, scanning the chamber floor. Marcus held the cable tight so no one slipped. The sentry turned and strode away, its boots clanging on metal. Relief flooded Marcus's chest. He exhaled slowly and glanced at the others. Their faces shared his hunger for freedom. He nodded, and they slipped along the catwalk toward a grated hatch at its far end. Marcus pushed the hatch open and peered into the hangar. Emergency lights painted the vast space in red and orange. Dozens of small shuttles and cargo vessels lay on cradles. At the far side, the escape shuttle Marcus had first reached stood ready, its hatch open. He crouched beside the others. "That's our ride," he said softly. "We move on my signal." Kara placed a hand on his arm. "What if they lock us out?" Marcus met her gaze. "Then we make them let us in. Stay ready." He counted to 3 and dropped from the catwalk, Kara and Jax close behind. The rest scrambled down, boots clanking as they landed. Marcus sprinted toward the shuttle, the group trailing behind him. He reached the cockpit door and ripped it shut. With a flick of his wrist, he sealed the hatch. Inside, he punched the release code. Engines roared to life. The prisoners crowded around him, hope shining in their eyes. Marcus gripped the controls and initiated launch. As the shuttle rose, the hangar's lights flickered and alarms blared. He shot a final glance through the cockpit window at the alien ship's open bay and felt a surge of triumph. "Lieutenant." Marcus Hale's shuttle drifted through the silent void as the hulking alien flagship receded behind them. The small group of freed prisoners huddled in the cockpit, breathing hard but alive. Marcus watched their faces in the dim light. Some, still pale from fear, others fierce with relief. He tapped communications controls, but static hissed back. The alien vessel's jamming fields must still be active. He turned to Kara, the engineer who had led the jailbreak. "Can you bypass their jamming?" he asked. Kara nodded, her fingers dancing over the console. I'll try rerouting our signal through the secondary antenna. It's a long shot. She bit her lip as lines of code scrolled past. Marcus gave her space, scanning the small cabin for any sign of trouble. Behind them, Rohan, the scientist, pressed a bandage to his arm, where he had been grazed by shrapnel. They'll track us soon, he warned. Marcus clenched his jaw. Then, we'll stay ahead. Kara, update when you can. Outside the viewport, stars streaked past as the shuttle powered its thrusters. Marcus set a course away from the enemy ship, toward the nearest human outpost, Nova Station. If they could reach Nova, they could send a full warning to Earth Command. Suddenly, the alarm shrieked. Lights flashed red. Marcus whirled to the sensors. We've got company. On the holo display, 2 sleek alien fighters darted through, space closing fast. Marcus grabbed the sidearm he had taken from a guard. Take cover, he shouted. The prisoners dove behind consoles and seats. Marcus stood in the hatchway, weapon raised. One fighter swooped overhead, firing a beam that scorched the hull. The shuttle shook violently. Kara cried out as a panel sparked near her feet. Marcus fired his sidearm at the open cockpit window of the fighter swooping low. His shot hit its hull but did little damage. He ducked as the fighter banked away, then rattled overhead again. He realized they needed a plan. He jogged to the navigation panel. I'll draw them off, he said. Kara, help the others with shields and thrusters. She nodded, blinking away fear. Together they worked to reroute power, diverting all available energy to the shuttles, forward shield and engines. Rohan crawled past to assist, pushing the secondary power couplings into place. The hum of the engines rose. Marcus moved back to the front hatch. The first fighter came in for another pass. He let it close until he could see the pilot's dark visor behind the cockpit glass. He fired, aiming for the engine grid on its wing. Sparks flew. As his energy round struck true, buckling the wing, the fighter careened off course and tumbled into the void. Marcus let out a breath he did not realize he was holding. But there was no time to celebrate. The second fighter surged forward. Weapons charged. Suddenly, a beam of light appeared between them and the fighter. It struck the enemy craft, tearing its hull apart in a blaze of white. The shuttle shook as debris tumbled past. Marcus's eyes widened. From the darkness came another ship, sleek, triangular, and unmistakably human. Bright blue markings glowed along its wings. As it passed, Marcus caught sight of its emblem, the Nova Station Defense Force. The new ship swept in front of Marcus's shuttle, then veered toward the alien fighter. Bolts of energy lanced from its weapons, and in moments the second alien ship broke apart. Who are they? Kara whispered, awe in her voice. Friends, I hope, Marcus answered, lowering his weapon. He keyed the comms channel. This is Shuttle Echo 97. We're under attack but now safe. Assistance appreciated. Static crackled, then a clear voice replied. Echo 97, this is Nova Defender. We have your signature. Follow us to safe corridors. Marcus's relief was so strong he almost smiled. He ordered the shuttle to match the Nova ship's course. Soon they slipped into a region of space shielded from the alien flagship's sensors. Inside the cockpit, the prisoners emerged from hiding. Jax, the young soldier, grasped Marcus's arm. You saved us, he said, voice thick. Marcus shook his head. We saved each other, he replied. Then he looked at Kara. Great work on the shields. Kara managed a small grin. Couldn't have done it without you. The Nova Defender guided them through a web of debris fields and asteroid clusters before entering a marked safe zone. Bright lights from Nova Station's orbital ring came into view, promising medical aid, debriefings, and a path back home. As they docked, the Nova crew hurried aboard, assessing the shuttle and its passengers. A tall officer, clad in polished blue armor, approached Marcus. She removed her helmet, revealing a face lined with years of service and kindness in her eyes. Lieutenant Marcus Hale, she said, offering her hand. I'm Commander Celine Carr of Nova Station. Thank you for your bravery. Marcus straightened. Ma'am, our people are in danger. The flagship's weapons and jamming tech could cripple Earth's defenses. Commander Carr nodded gravely. We know. We've been shadowing the alien fleet since they seized Horizon Station. Your escape bought us valuable time. She gestured toward the freed prisoners. Your people will receive aid, and your warning goes straight to Earth Command. Relief and pride swelled in Marcus's chest. Yet, he felt a deeper resolve stirring. They had won a small victory, but the war was far from over. Tomorrow he would stand before commanders and plan countermeasures. Tonight he would rest and prepare. As medics led the prisoners away, Marcus lingered at the airlock. He gazed at the inky blackness of space, where distant stars burned like silent sentinels. The human will had held firm against alien chains. Now, with an unexpected ally at his side, Marcus knew they would fight on, and that no power in the universe could break the strength of a united humanity. Lieutenant Marcus Hale guided the squad of freed prisoners through the twisting corridors of the alien flagship. Their escape shuttle now lay far behind them in a hidden bay, and every step carried them deeper into the ship's core. The air grew warm, and the low hum of power conduits pulsed beneath the grated floor. Marcus held his sidearm ready, eyes alert for any sign of alien patrols. Around him, Kara and Jack scanned the walls, alert for secret doors or hidden traps. They reached a junction marked by a glowing symbol the aliens used for high security. A heavy hatch sealed the way forward. Kara knelt and set to work on the control panel. Sparks flashed as she rerouted power and bypassed the lock's logic gates. Each prisoner waited with tense silence, breaths shallow. Finally, the panel beeped softly. The hatch slid open with a hiss, revealing a wide corridor lit by pale blue lights. This way, Marcus whispered, leading them into the cool hallway. The corridor widened as they pushed forward, walls curving inward like the inside of a shell. The hum grew louder, and bright veins of energy traced along the walls. Ahead, a massive chamber came into view, a vast, circular room dominated by a glowing sphere at its center. The sphere thrummed with pale blue light, casting long shadows on the floor. It was the ship's core reactor, the heart of the behemoth. Rohan, the scientist, stared in awe. That must be the power source for the entire flagship, he said, voice low. If we shut it down, we cripple their systems. Marcus nodded, scanning for any security measures. Around the core, alien engineers in slim suits monitored readouts on floating holoscreens. None yet noticed the approaching humans, but alarms could sound at any moment. We need a plan, Marcus said. He pointed toward two reinforced consoles on opposite sides of the chamber. Kara and Rohan, you two work on those consoles. Jax, and I will cover you. Kara gave a nervous nod and led Rohan toward the left console. Sweat beaded on her forehead, but her hands moved with the confidence of a trained engineer. Marcus and Jax moved to positions with clear sight of the engineers. As Kara reached the console, she placed her pack on the floor and opened it. Tools and improvised devices gleamed in the dim light. She jammed a small probe into the alien interface while Rohan tapped commands into a borrowed datapad. The console's lights flickered. Marcus watched the engineers shift uneasily. Any second they might notice the sabotage. One engineer glanced over his shoulder. His dark eyes widened. He raised an alarm emitter, but Marcus was quicker. He dashed forward and fired a stun beam at the engineer's feet. The beam sparked against the alloy floor, and the engineer went stiff before collapsing in a heap. Jax covered Marcus with his pistol as Marcus moved to block the other engineer. A burst of light caught Marcus's arm, making him wince, but he pressed on, knocking the guard's weapon away and slamming him into the wall. Behind them, Kara let out a sharp cry. Rohan had discovered extra security protocols. The console locked down and began a countdown. 5 minutes to meltdown, Rohan shouted. We have to do it now. Marcus glanced at his squad, faces set with determination. He nodded. Go for it, I'll hold them off. Kara and Rohan worked together, ripping open the console's casing. Sparks flew as they rewired the core's emergency cutoff. Pale blue glow of the reactor flickered. Alarms split the air. Red lights bathed the chamber in an angry glow. The remaining engineers recovered and charged. Weapons raised. Marcus lifted his weapon and fired. The shots rang out as he moved between covers, each burst knocking armor plates loose. Jax advanced alongside him, firing precise shots that forced the aliens back step by step. Metal clanged, and cables sparked underfoot as the reactor's power grid resisted the shutdown. At the consoles, Kara shouted, "It's almost there, just a second more." She slammed in a final splice, and the core sphere's light dimmed. A deep groan of collapsing energy echoed through the chamber. The humming slowed to a halt. The glowing veins in the walls faded, and the air grew still. Marcus felt the ship shudder as systems shut down around them. The alien engineers froze, then threw down their weapons in shock. One staggered toward the console, trying to reverse the shutdown, but Rohan intercepted him. He knocked the alien aside and activated a manual lock on the console. "It's locked for good," Rohan said, panting. Kara leaned back, breathing hard but smiling. A massive tremor ripped through the chamber as the core's failsafe engaged. Warning klaxons blared, and sparks rained from overhead conduits. The floor beneath them rattled like thunder. Marcus grabbed Kara's arm. "Time to go," he yelled. The group raced toward the hatch they had entered, aliens backing off to avoid the failing reactor. They reached the hatch just as the chamber behind them exploded in a wave of light and sound. The blast rocked the corridor, and the door slammed, shut with a hydraulic groan. Smoke and steam billowed out, tinted red by emergency lighting. Marcus supported Kara, who stumbled from the force of the shockwave. Rohan and Jax rejoined them, faces alight with adrenaline. Marcus pressed his back against the hatch wall, breathing heavily. "That should slow them down," he said, voice firm. "Their warship is unusable now." Kara nodded, wiping sweat from her brow. "We did it," she whispered. Rohan traced lines on a small datapad. "We've dealt a heavy blow," he said. "Now we need to get back to our people and warn Earth Command." Marcus looked at the faces around him, tired, bruised, but proud. He stood tall and drew in a deep breath. Smoke and sparks filled the corridor as Marcus Hale led his small band of survivors away from the ruined reactor core. The blast had echoed like thunder, and alarms blared throughout the alien flagship. Yet that explosion was more than mere sabotage. It was the signal that freedom was possible. Every step they took carried the hope of a larger uprising. Marcus checked the narrow passage ahead. Flickering emergency lights cast long shadows on the curved walls. Jax supported Kara, who still felt lightheaded from the shockwave. Rohan scurried beside them, clutching his datapad full of enemy schematics. Behind them strode the other freed prisoners, each step stronger than the last. "Listen," Marcus whispered, stopping near a grated vent. Through it he heard distant shouts, alien commands and human voices alike. The sabotage must have alerted guards, but it also stirred the captive. Humans. He pressed a hand to the vent, letting their voices guide him. He led the group to a side door marked with the same glowing prison symbol Marcus had seen before. The door's lock mechanism lay broken thanks to Rohan's quick work. It swung open on bent hinges, revealing a holding cell packed with dozens of humans. Soldiers, scientists, engineers, even families who had been abducted. Their eyes widened at the sight of Marcus and his team emerging like ghosts of hope. Marcus stepped inside and raised his voice so all could hear. "We came to free ourselves," he said. "Now we can free you. The reactor is down, and this ship can no longer hunt us. Follow me, and we will take back this vessel." A murmur of wonder rippled through the cell. Kara knelt by the door's control panel and worked swiftly to release the remaining locks. One by one, the cell doors hissed open and people spilled into the corridor. Fear still glimmered in their eyes, but hope shone brighter. As the last of the prisoners joined them, Marcus turned to Jax. "Stay close. We move as one." They formed a tight unit, winding through the ship's arteries. Their path took them past battle-damaged turrets and half-lit corridors where alien sentries were too few to contain the flood of freed humans. Each patrol they passed, Marcus silently waved a soldier to his side. In seconds, new fighters pressed weapons into their hands, plasma rifles, stun batons, even makeshift blades fashioned from broken pipes. Rohan, Kara, and a group of engineers, set up a temporary command point in a junction room. They hacked the ship's local network, broadcasting a universal override message in the aliens' own language. All human prisoners are free. Seize control. Rebel. The message flickered on every holoscreen in the nearby sectors. In the corridor, Marcus felt the tide turning. Alien guards rushed toward the mess, but they met human resistance at every turn. Men and women who had once trembled in captivity now fought with fierce determination. Some untrained civilians picked up rifles for the first time, discovering an unexpected strength. One soldier shouted, "For Earth!" and fired at a charging guard. His shot found its mark, and the alien fell back. Another group surged forward, overrunning a security station and using the console to shut bulkheads behind them. The corridors shrank into lethal traps for any pursuing enemy. Marcus moved with the front line. He spotted an alien communications tower ahead, a tall spire of antennae and glowing nodes. If the humans could seize it, they could cut off the flagship's link to reinforcements. He signaled Jax and two others to follow him. They dashed across a wide chamber, ducking behind fuel canisters as alien fire streaked past. Kara and Rohan, joined by liberated engineers, jammed the tower's base, disabling its power feed. Sparks scattered, and the nodes blinked out. The chamber went silent, save for the rasp of human breaths. A blast door slid open at the far end, and more aliens poured through, elite soldiers clad in heavier armor. Marcus raised his weapon and called out, "Hold the line!" Humans braced, at a low barrier. The first wave slammed against them, but they held steady. Jax met the charge, firing steady bursts, while others pressed forward to flank the enemy. Marcus charged himself, driving an alien soldier back with a well-placed stun strike. The clash rang with metallic clangs and shouted commands. Minutes felt like hours. The flagship trembled as the damage from the reactor shutdown rippled through its systems. Lights flickered, corridors shook. Each tremor weakened the alien advance and strengthened human resolve. Finally, the elite guards faltered. Without communications or fresh supplies of energy, their discipline broke. Some fled, others surrendered, dropping their weapons. Marcus lowered his rifle and called out to his people, "Victory! This sector is ours!" A cheer rose up, echoing through the chamber and beyond. Marcus felt a surge of pride. He had lit the spark of rebellion. Around him, Freeze slaves embraced, soldiers hugging scientists, families weeping in relief. The corridors of the great alien warship rang with the sound of human victory for the first time. Marcus turned to Kara, Rohan, and Jax. "We have control of this section," he said. "Now we send our message to Earth and to every ship in this fleet. Humanity will not bow." Kara nodded, eyes bright. Rohan tapped commands that would broadcast their declaration across every channel. Jax gripped Marcus's shoulder. "You started this, Lieutenant," he said quietly. "Now we finish it." Marcus looked out a viewport and saw the stars drifting by. No longer a silent void, but the stage for mankind's stand. His heart brimmed with determination. No chain, no ship, no empire would ever hold the strength of the human will. The corridors of the alien flagship were alive with hums of reclaimed power and the footsteps of proud humans. Lieutenant Marcus Hale stood at the head of a narrow passage, flanked by Kara, Rohan, Jax, and dozens of newly freed prisoners. Behind them, lights once used to trap them now pulsed steadily, guiding them toward the hangar bay. Each step carried the promise of home. Marcus paused at an intersection, studying the star charts flickering on a nearby holoscreen. "Our course to Earth remains clear," he said, voice firm. "We have disabled their time warp engines. Their fleet cannot chase us faster than light. We will return safely." The group nodded, relief present in every face. Even in the dim glow, their smiles shone bright. As they moved on, they passed sections of the ship still trembling from the core shutdown. Damaged conduits sparked and panels hung loose from walls. Yet these signs of destruction were also proof of triumph. Marcus ran a hand along a scorched railing. "We showed them what humans can do," he said softly. "Now we complete our journey, The hangar bay came into view, its massive doors sliding open to reveal the void beyond. Dozens of support shuttles rested along the walls, pilotless but intact. In the center, the battered but functional Echo 97 awaited them. Engines hissed, venting excess heat. A pair of alien security drones patrolled lazily, unaware of the human uprising that had swept the ship. Marcus raised his hand. Quietly, he led the group down the sloping ramp, boots echoing on metal. Kara and Rohan fanned out to jam the drone's sensors while Jax and 2 soldiers covered their backs. In moments, the drone's lights dimmed and their engines died. They crumpled to the floor in silent wrecks. "Clear," Jax reported. He stepped aside as Marcus reached the shuttle's hatch. Kara pressed a handheld panel to the lock. A soft click, and the door swung open. The freed prisoners crowded inside, gratitude shining in their eyes. Marcus and his team followed, closing the hatch behind them. Inside the cockpit, Marcus activated the console. Lights flickered to life, and the main displays read, "Ready." He drew a deep breath, pushed into his chair, and secured his harness. Kara sat to his right, her fingers already checking engine gauges. Rohan strapped in beside her, clutching the datapad that contained the ship's coordinates and the story they would tell. "All set?" Marcus asked. Kara gave a steady nod. Jax checked the weapons locker, securing what they might need on the return. The prisoners settled into side benches, weary but eager for safety. Marcus tapped the launch command. The shuttle's engines hummed, and the bay's magnetic clamps released. Echo 97 slid down the ramp into space. Outside, the blackness stretched wide, punctuated by distant stars and the wounded flagship's silhouette. A faint glow of damaged shield still surrounded it. "Locking course," Marcus said as he flipped a switch. The nav computer hummed and calculated the jump trajectory. A soft chime sounded. "Jump in 3, 2, 1. Light bent around the shuttle's hull as the drive engaged. The stars elongated into streaks of white and blue, and the vessel slipped through space like a falling star. Inside, silence reigned for a heartbeat. Then cheers rose. Humans who had faced chains and interrogation now laughed and cried in relief. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. They had done the impossible. Within the cabin, Kara tapped Rohan's shoulder. "I see Earth's glow on the scopes." Rohan's eyes widened. On the screen, a pale blue orb grew larger. "Home," he whispered. Marcus stood and clasped the hands of Kara and Jax. "We carry the spark of rebellion in our hearts. We will tell Earth of this fight and build new defenses. Our people will know. No chain, no starship, no force can break the human will." As the shuttle re-entered the solar system, the craft's hull glowed from atmospheric friction. Through the cockpit window, Marcus saw Earth's curved horizon, the blues of oceans and swirls of white clouds. The sight filled him with awe and purpose. He placed a hand over his heart. Behind him, the freed prisoners watched in wonder. Some whispered prayers of thanks, others wiped tears from their eyes. A small child, one of the families abducted, pointed and smiled. Marcus crouched to meet her gaze. "You are free," he said, voice soft, "and you are safe." The shuttle landed on the Nova Station landing pad, engines roaring to a halt. Ground crews rushed forward with medical teams and communications officers. Marcus and his passengers stood, unstrapping and stepping into the bright lights of home. "Commander," Celine Kaur approached, lifting her helmet. Relief and respect lit her features. "Welcome back," she said. "Your courage has saved countless lives and given Earth the warning it needed. You honor humanity."